Welcome back to the Brotherhood of Gaming video game show, everybody. I'm your host, William Morris.
And I am your co-host, Eugene Morris. And, well, 2017 has definitely been an interesting year for us.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Like, both professionally and personally.
A lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, it's just been kind of a weird end of the year. Just kind of creeped up on us out of nowhere, didn't it?
Right. Now, if you're familiar with our channel, you know that over the past 2 years, we've done like these top 20 video games where we give you our favorite top 20 games of the year. Now, for this year, we actually debated back and forth whether or not we're going to do that for one specific reason. We don't have a Nintendo Switch.
Now, it's not because we didn't want one. Trust me, it's the exact opposite. It's just that with times being the way they are, you know how it is. Money is tight, so unfortunately, we just couldn't get our hands on one.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll get one next year. But as far as this list, well, we decided to do one anyway. But to kind of offset that, what we're going to do is we're going to do like our honorable mentions here and list the following Nintendo Switch games on it that we feel pretty strongly would have been on this list had we gotten a Switch this year. And those includes Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Super Mario 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and of course, the big one, Super Mario Odyssey. And you know, that one kind of hurts the most because that's the one we really, really wanted to play.
Yeah, I mean, we went to GameStop several times, tried it out on their screens, and we were just sitting there with the Joy-Cons in our hands like, wow, this would be amazing to play at home. Regardless of having a Nintendo Switch or not, there were a lot of other games that did come out this year, and we do own pretty much every other console out there, so we are in no shortage of games here to put on this list. We did still manage to play quite a lot of them. Some of them we've reviewed for the channel, some of them we played during live streams, and some of them we just played casually without you guys knowing about it. I'm sorry. So, without any further delays, let's just jump right into it and let's tell you what the games are. These are the top 20 games from the BrotherhoodofGaming.com.
Cruise's The Mummy may have failed to find an audience, but to our surprise, from it came one of the truly better movie-based tie-in games in recent memory, and that is thanks exclusively to Wait For It Technologies. These guys have become experts in developing games that pay homage to the classic Metroidvania-style gameplay, and they do it again here. With its charming pixel art, it really captures the beauty of those old Super Nintendo games. The premise is simple: battle your way through labyrinths, collect power-ups, and kill enemies. But the twist is that if you lose a life, your former character becomes your new enemy and you must defeat him to recover your gear. To some, this has become a turnoff because it does make certain sections of the game quite unbearable with its difficulty. And we do agree, as this game did get rage quit worthy on a couple of occasions. Yet we still persevered, and it is one of those games that it's so hard, it's good, which definitely holds true for the boss battles as well. We were also helped along by one of the best video game soundtracks of the year. The Mummy Demastered is a quality downloadable title that serves as an homage not just to the movie that it represents, but to a bygone era of classic retro gaming.
For our 2014's Games of the Year list, we made the mistake of not playing Shadow of Mordor, and so it just wasn't on our list. And boy, did the comments section of that video let us know about that big blunder. So, we were interested in taking on its sequel, Shadow of War. The game picks up where the last left off, continuing the tale of our heroes of Middle-earth battling Sauron, in between the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The action for some in this game has been compared to, say, Batman Arkham Asylum. You know, just with swords. Sounds awesome, right? And that worked well for us. The combat is very smooth and very fun to get into. Shadow of War really is your basic open world hack and slash with plenty of options for your fighting, along with an engaging story. Unfortunately, the thing that hurts this game is, well, Warner Brothers themselves. Specifically, the inclusion of microtransactions and loot boxes. Oy, yeah, you just can't get rid of them, can you? So keep that in mind when purchasing this adventure. Now, of course, they can be ignored, but they really are staring you in the face. But you will just have to grind. And that really shouldn't be a problem in the long run, because even with the corporate money-grabbing stuff, this is a polished and enjoyable adventure. And if you are a Lord of the Rings fan or a fan of Middle-earth, this should be right down your alley.
Now, we did not know anything about the first game, but just taking a quick look at the cel-shaded anime style of Gravity Rush 2, well, that was enough for us to give it a try. As you might guess from the title, you use gravity as your main feature to travel and battle your enemies, and it is pretty spectacular. It really is something very unique. Using gravity to hurl yourself around from one area to the next is really fun to play with. The game also gives you a big and beautiful environment to travel through and interact in. The game's characters are all very likable, and the game has a very strong presentation. The story is told in a comic book style which does work here very well, even though the story is not the best out there. It is not bad, just generic anime stuff, you know. That, along with some very repetitive missions that do make the game feel like it is filled with unnecessary padding. But overall, the core gameplay with its traversing and combat does make the game worth trying out, not to mention the great music as well. This game is not for everyone, but if you are into anime visuals and flying around, then we say give this a shot.
Sega's Yakuza series is one of those franchises that is very popular in Japan, but probably not as much here in the United States. But if you are looking for a starting point, hey, why not right here with Yakuza 0? This game functions as a prequel to the series, and really sets up the backstory and motivations from many of the franchise favorites. The game is set in Japan during the 80s, which, hey, that's actually pretty cool, which really gives it a cool environment to roam through. Graphically, it may not be super impressive, but you gotta remember this is primarily a crime drama with a lot of in-depth storytelling. And when we say in-depth, we mean it. In this game, it is story first, and the action gameplay takes a distant second. In a lot of ways, you can compare this to the Shenmue series. But while the main storyline keeps it very grounded, there are plenty of crazy side quests which really do give Yakuza 0 its charm. And the whole game is carried beautifully by its talented Japanese cast. The game allows you to brawl your way through the mean streets of Japan, which is the icing on the cake. The game will not be for everyone, but if you enjoy games from Japan and are looking to get into this Sega gem, try it out. It's good for newcomers.
Pokemon just never gets old, as this year we get the advanced versions of last year's Sun and Moon. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is much like previous enhancement titles such as Yellow, Crystal, and Platinum, as it features improvements and a slightly altered storyline, for better or for worse. The expanded journey now features 8 full trials instead of 7, and all the trials are slightly remixed. Now it does feel quite familiar to last year, but the further you go into the adventure, the more new features you will come across. The game is full of smart improvements to the formula, though not all work as well as they should, but that was in the minority. The core gameplay returns, and it's just as fun as ever, and the music hits its mark as usual. These games do come across as the definitive version of the 7th generation of games. Those who played last year's will definitely feel the sameness here, but for those players, we're sure that they won't mind. Dust your handheld off and ride off again into the Alola region.
It is kind of a sad joke that we've reached the year 2018 and Kingdom Hearts 3 still has not come out yet. But we do think that everyone has been squared away, and we are now finally ready for that final part of Sora and Riku's story. But before that, we got Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. Now this game functions as a remaster of Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance for the Nintendo 3DS, but also provides a taste of what is to come with 2 new additions to the franchise as a whole. The HD remake of Dream Drop Distance is fine, but the meat of this game is the Fragmentary Passage. This part tells the tale of Aqua and her time in the Realm of Darkness. By using technology from Kingdom Hearts 3, this game gives us a preview of what is to come, and boy, we cannot wait. The luscious visuals along with the tried and true Kingdom Hearts gameplay gives us goosebumps for what is around the corner. While back cover is a cinematic film that offers a little bit more of a history to its lore, also using the Kingdom Hearts 3 engine. The game is a little on the short side and gives just a taste, but to us, we see it just like Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. It whets our appetite for Kingdom Hearts 3, and it did its job well. Oh, and lastly, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance is now running at a consistent 60 frames per second smoothness, and it's quite noticeable and it is quite awesome.
The original Evil Within came out in 2014, and even though it had its detractors for sure, we still really enjoyed it. So much so that we were very interested in continuing the story of Sebastian and battle the mysterious organization Mobius. Shinji Mikami, who is best known for directing the first Resident Evil and Dino Crisis, had directed the first game, but stepped down to supervise this one. By doing so, the game did address some of the poorly received elements from the first one. The Evil Within 2 does expand the narrative, even though some of it is a bit strange to us. But it still delivered an interesting ride, and was most certainly a head trip for sure. The gameplay does have some technical problems that can lead to some frustration, but overall it is still a cerebral adventure. The game is not quite on the level of the first, but it still maintains that intense survival horror. It is a very good entry into that genre. While it is no Resident Evil 4, it does give us the good scares that we're looking for.
Tekken 7 marked the final chapter in the war between father and son, Heihachi Mishima and Kazuya Mishima. As longtime fans of this franchise, we looked forward to seeing what would happen in this episode. And we personally were not that disappointed. The story does exclude many of the famous supporting cast of Tekken, but they are really not the focus here in any event anyway. What it does deliver is a satisfying and emotional conclusion to this aspect of Tekken's lore, while perfectly setting up the events of the next game. As for the fighting itself, well, it's Tekken, pure and simple. The fighting was complex, yet as enjoyable as before, not to mention the additional Street Fighter mainstay, Akuma, and his inclusion in the story just to make things even more enjoyable and probably more complicated. Now, is Tekken 7 the best of the whole series? Well, that will forever and always be debatable. To us, it's not, as we still rank other installments higher than this one. The game may not have some features that did cross over from others, and we know that indeed irked some fans. But it does not mean that this one was not a joy to play as well. As usual, the combat in this game is hard to master and can be a bit intimidating, especially playing against those who know what they're doing. But it is also rewarding as well. This makes us look forward to the next installment. And please, let Jen be the main hero. Oh, and one more thing. Noctis from Final Fantasy XV is in this game. Oh my god.
The Uncharted series is one of our most cherished franchises, and we absolutely love it because of the main character Nathan Drake. He was such a likable guy, and we were really invested in his storyline, and we got that wonderful conclusion with last year's Uncharted 4. But now we have Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. The game was originally meant to be DLC for last year's game, but it got blown up into full game size. It is a shorter adventure and feels very much like Uncharted 4, but we liked the game so much that we really didn't mind it here. The gameplay is just as fun, but surprisingly there is a little less focus on action and more on exploration. But it is still overall a satisfying experience. The graphics, sound, music is very Uncharted, with an additional 2-player mode to boot. Now again, this game is very Uncharted 4, just on a smaller size, but like I said, it is still an enjoyable morsel, and hopefully we'll get more samplings from the Uncharted universe in the near future.
The Assassin's Creed series took a year off last year, thank God. Well, if you don't count the movie, but we don't talk about that. Anyway, the franchise returned this year with Assassin's Creed Origins. The game outlines the origin of the Assassin's Brotherhood, which takes us back to ancient Egypt. Hey, we love Egypt! Wonder if there's a woman running around with 2 pistols. No? Oh well. The game feels more streamlined and fast, but the stealth is still on the iffy side if you ask me. The stealth mode was never the selling point to us. I mean, we just kinda enjoyed the story and the combat. The fighting is a lot more rabid and there is plenty of weapon variety. The open world stuff is all still there. If you're down with that, well then here you go. It's all a matter of taste. The game can be a grind, but it can still keep your interest. There is some good storytelling and the characters are pretty solid. For us, this is our favorite Assassin's Creed game since Black Flag. And it has a lot to do with the environment, like with that game. The Egypt environment is so great to explore and really feels lived in. Except for, the occasional frame rate issues and the occasional bug. But fortunately, it's not too distracting. It may not have the same feel as the old ones, but Assassin's Creed Origins is a solid entry that we did enjoy trying out. Whoa. Okay, now hold on, guys. Whew, that's a lot of games right there. We need a short break and intermission. Gotta battle a few Heartless. So, What did you guys think of the 11 through 20 right there? Was it any good? Was your game on there? Was it not? Well, it still could be in the top 10. So, before you go, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell notification, or if you want to see the top 10 list right now, go to our official website, www.thebrotherhoodofgaming.com, and it will already be there. For the rest of you guys, just wait one more day, and it will be here on YouTube, ready for you guys to see it. Until then, I'm your host, William Morris.
And I am your co-host, Eugene Morris.
And may your heart be your guiding key.